Every few decades, one commodity decides who runs the world. Coal did it, oil did it, now it might be silicon. Pax Silica is the name for that shift, and it's also an actual US led alliance. The Philippines joined in April 2026. The pitch: 4,000-acre economic security zone in New Clark City. BCDA says it could eventually bring in 40 to 70 billion dollars and 130,000 jobs. Here's the catch, however. Those are projections, not signed leases, not built factories. That gap is what this whole video is all about. Here's the truth about the Philippines and computer chips. Imagine every single computer chip in the world starts as a plain silicone wafer, like a giant round cracker. Somewhere, a factory has to carve tiny circuits into that wafer. That's the hardest, most expensive part, and only a handful of countries on Earth can do it. Taiwan is the king of this. The US, South Korea, and a few others can do it too. But the Philippines, we don't really do that part. We're not the country carving the circuits. What we're really good at this point is what happens after the chips get made. Think of it like a bakery. Someone bakes the cakes, the actual cake. We're the ones who cut it into slices, put it in a box, put it in a nice box, test that if it tastes right, and then ship it out. That's called assembly, packaging, and testing. And quite honestly, it's a real skill. We've been doing it for decades. Big companies like Texas Instruments, Analog Devices, and Amcor all have factories here doing exactly that. That's not nothing. It's actually why more than half of everything the Philippines sells to other countries for exports is electronics. But here's the catch, and it's an important part. In 2025, we sold about $46 billion worth of electronics to the world. Sounds huge, right? Except that we also bought almost as much in raw chips and parts from other countries because we don't make those parts ourselves. We just finish them. So think about it like this. Imagine you've got a lemonade stand, but you don't grow the lemons. You just buy them from someone else. Then you squeeze them and then sell the lemonade. Now, you're making good money, sure, but if the lemon guy stops selling to you, your whole stand just shuts down. You don't actually control the lemons. That's the Philippines right now with computer chips. We're really good at the squeezing part. We're just not the ones growing the lemons ourselves. Good business, no sovereignty. Did the Philippines win the let's build stuff outside of China race? Not really. You've probably heard the buzz. Companies are leaving China and the Philippines is scoring big. Nice headline. It's just not quite true. Here's the truth. We got invited to the party. We didn't get handed the mic, though. Malaysia grabbed a lot of the fancier stuff, like the higher tech chip work and the giant data center buildings that power AI. Vietnam, on the other hand, scooped up a ton of regular factory work, mostly because it's basically next door to China. It's already huge at manufacturing, and it builds new roads and ports way faster than we do. Way faster. In 2024, Southeast Asia pulled in a record 225 billion US dollars from foreign companies investing in the region. Malaysia and Vietnam were big reasons why. Philippines weren't even mentioned as one of the main reasons. So why do we keep losing out on these big deals? Three reasons. And they're very simple actually. Power, electricity here is expensive and it's not always reliable. Imagine you're a huge company deciding where to build a factory that has to run 24/7. Would you pick the country where more than one out of five businesses say power supply is a real problem? across the rest of Southeast Asia or East Asia, it's more like 1 out of 12. That gap matters a lot when you're about to spend billions of dollars. Roads and ports, also important. Getting stuff in and out of the country matters too. Compared to Vietnam, our paved roads are way less dense. Something like one eighth as much or as little. That means slower trucks, slower shipping, more headaches. People power, the technical kind, we've got tons of workers who are great at the assembly line type of job. What we're short on is the next level up. Engineers who design chips, who run advanced equipment, and those who solve the harder technical problems. The government actually knows this and wants to train 128,000 more of these engineers, but it's not going to happen overnight. The target, if I understand correctly, is 2033. It's not a press release moment. That's a real, slow, expansive plan to fix that real gap. So, no, we didn't win the trade war. We got a seat to the table, and now we have to earn the rest. The bill no one's talking about. A factory isn't a gift, it's a trade. Long tax holidays and cheap land quietly hand part of the economics to the investor. Get too generous, and we host the factory while somebody else keeps the actual know how. That's what we call an enclave economy. Then there's water. Advanced chip fabrication drinks enormous volumes of ultra pure water and produces wastewater that needs serious treatment. TSMC had to build major recycling infrastructure just to keep its own fabs running, cutting municipal power use by 31% in 2024. Will figure out water and power is not that commitment. It's actually a placeholder for one. Now, power runs the same risk in reverse. More demand without enough firm, clean supply tightens the grid for everyone else. Now, none of this means don't do the deal. It just means judge it by the math, the jobs, and the exports we get back per peso of tax break, per hectare of land, per unit of water and power we hand over. And the sharpest tool in that negotiation, clawbacks. No penalty clause if targets are missed. No real deal. Where the smart money goes, a relocating factory doesn't buy stock in itself first. It buys land, power, and reliable goods. Reliable roads and ports. That's where I'd point the capital. The companies that own the bottlenecks, every manufacturer needs, regardless of who wins the politics. Ran this through my Bears filter. Three sectors stand out: industrial land and logistics, Ayala Land and Philinvest, the companies that own the dirt before anyone builds on it. Power and utilities. You got Meralco and ACEN. They get paid either way. By winning the load or by the grid finally getting fixed. Selected chip and electronics names. Highest upside, highest risk also. Because geopolitics and the water power math can cut both ways very fast. So my watch list, IMI, margins improving, but demand still soft. Tech, the purest play here, but a weak balance sheet. Ali and AREIT own the land itself. FLI sits directly inside New Clark City. New Clark Zone, Meralco gets paid on growth. ASEN, structural demand story with real execution risk. However, this is a watch list, not a shopping list. Some of these have already earned steady cash, uh, but betting on a plan that hasn't happened yet, not so sure. Now, what would make me believe this? I'm not the kind of person who gets excited just because something sounds big and exciting. I want to see the real proof before I get hopeful. So here's exactly what I'm watching for. One, an actual company that's actually committed, not some executives visited and looked around. I mean, real company with a signed deal, real money on the table, construction crews actually working, and machines actually being ordered and installed. There's already a rumored 50.7 billion project, peso project from Samsung Electromechanics. If that turns out from plan to paper, actual workers coming in, that's a real signal. Two, specific things I'm going to be watching very closely. Water. Does any company that signs on actually tell us how much water they'll use, how much they'll recycle, and how they'll treat the wastewater? Or are we just supposed to trust a nice sounding press release? Power. There's a plan for a giant 500 megawatt solar power project. Does it actually get built and start powering a real factory? Or does it just stay a fancy photo of a groundbreaking ceremony that never goes anywhere? The actual contract terms, does the final deal include a clawback clause, meaning if they don't deliver what they promised, we take out incentives or we take back our incentives? Does it require them to be honest about how the land and nearby communities are affected? Or is it just free perks with zero accountability? Three, keep an eye on the bigger political picture in both directions, that is. Here's something people often miss. If tensions around Taiwan get worse, we don't magically become safe from that risk. Our own factories still need chips and materials that come from there. At the same time, by joining this US led alliance more closely, we're also opening ourselves up to a different kind of risk. If China decides to retaliate through trade rules or restrictions, we could get caught in that crossfire too. So this deal doesn't make us safe from global politics. It just changes which risks we're exposed to. Less danger from one direction, potentially more from another. So, final word. Can the Philippines be the next superpower? What do you think? It's a good story, but my job isn't to sell you the story. It's to keep your capital safe while it plays out. Right now, this is a picks and shovels trade, not a chip trade. You don't need to own the miracle. You need to own the land, the power lines, and the port the miracle would have to use if it ever shows up. Again, the plan, Pax Silica, sounds very promising, but we know that the Philippines wins only when announcements become factories, when factories create higher value jobs, and the public benefit exceeds the cost of land, cost of water, power, and the incentives. Stay integrated, stay ahead. If you do want to learn how to run this kind of analysis yourself before the next headline hits, that's exactly what I teach in From Red to Green Premium Coaching. Links below.